Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first session of Witcher Bloodletting. I'm very excited about this game. We've had a little bit of time of getting our characters together and really discovering how we want to play the game and so on and so forth. It's been wicked cool. So for those of you that usually frequent this channel, there's a couple people that you might not recognize over here. So I will allow them to introduce themselves really quickly. Dun Space.
Hey, that's me. I'm Dunspace. How's it hanging, everybody?
I met Dunce over. He's a friend of Doxy's because Doxy had pulled me in to play Kids on Bikes, which we do till obnoxiously late last night.
I tried a good ending spot sooner, but
no, it's all good. It's all good. It's actually Dunce is DMing over there, and he's like more or less has no experience. So it's actually really cool because he's doing an amazing job, and we've already started splitting on him. And anyways, you should go check that out over on twitch.tv/0doxy. The O is an actual 0. Then we also have the new guy over here, Messy Cat.
Hello, Messy Cat. Don't call me that. I'm not afraid.
I met Messy actually through Dunce, who was more or less like, I know somebody awesome that would love to play a Witcher game. And funny enough, Messy has actually played more of the Witcher games than I think the three of us combined. So it is true. He actually knows
it's very
more.
Possible. Very possible.
And then lastly, y'all know Rick.
Hi, I'm back.
Get out of here, Rick.
Yeah. Oh. We don't want you Netherlandese around here, Dutch people. So, awesome. So, without further ado, let's kind of jump into the game and see where things are going. So, when and where this game is taking place is we're actually starting off right after the end of the third game. Not immediately after. It's a little bit of time has passed since the third game ended, and while there was a war and everything that raged throughout the third game against the Nilfgaardians and to the north. It's not something that necessarily everybody in the entire continent was involved in. Some characters were rather removed from it, maybe because they were in a mountaintop school learning Witcher training, or maybe because they were in some podunk town that nobody gave a fuck about, and maybe never even a soldier walks through there. Whatever the case may be, some of the characters might come from backgrounds where they were kind of engrossed into the war, and others where they honestly, they were like, oh, that happens. So we're actually picking up this game over in the region of Rivia. So in the country of Lyria and Rivia. Rivia is going to be slightly north of there, over by Mount Carbon. So at the base of the mountain, there is this small shithole of a town that exists there. The town is so awful that it doesn't even have a name. So it's just a collection of about a few dozen people that just live in this wooded area right at the base of the mountain. There happens to be a region where lots of trees grow rather thick and rather dense. There's like some really good wood there, and honestly different types of stone that has some value when kind of like hard into the actual market of Rivia to sell to the peoples that live down that way. Construction of the walls, castle, buildings, so on and so forth. Like I said, this is a small podunk town that never really had an opportunity to make a name for itself. That wasn't until recently. They actually have recently had a change of who it is that is the mayor of the town, and this person does give themselves the title of mayor, even though they only have about 70 people that they represent. The person's name is Spilt, and so Spilt has recently become the mayor of the town, and very shortly after taking over that position, has appointed a new sheriff or the person that's ahead of the guard for the town. This is a person by the name of Carver. They had a plan in taking over and what it was that they wanted to do around here. Turn this down a little. They had a plan in taking over and what it was they wanted to do around here, and almost immediately put it into place. They started collecting the two non-humans or freak shows that lived in the town and threw them into a cell. And then as people kind of like traveled through the town, they threw a couple more into cells as well. Eventually they decided that it wasn't worth the hard work and the backbreaking labor of the town to feed these people to just sit inside of a cell and be lazy all day. So they started putting them to work. And they've actually made a bit of a work camp that they've built up. Until recently, the work camp comprised of 5 elves and 2 dwarves that they would send off, and they kept inside their small little living areas, but they would send off and be heavily guarded to watch them like cut down trees, to go and pull up different types like limestone and whatnot near the creek. So things that they can actually bring into Rivia to sell. But like I said, that was until recently. About a week ago, a witcher happened to find their way into town, and this kind of set people off a little bit. Witchers are another form of freak show, type of people that those around here don't really like. You see, there's a bit of an ignorance that exists in this region. It's actually believed that witchers are the reason why monsters are so prevalent in the world. The presence of witchers is why the monsters are here. They hunt each other. So there was a witcher that made his way into town. He had reasons of his own to be here, but ended up getting into a bit of a trouble and getting thrown into the prison himself. The next day found himself working inside the camp, and that has not been too happy with it. He was working the camp for only a few days' time when another witcher happened to roll their way into town. This actually would have set the town off like crazy if they had noticed he was here first, if they had kind of gathered the fact that another witcher was infiltrating the area. But he actually didn't go up to the general townsfolk, or wasn't foolish enough to go to the bar, understanding that there are some areas around here where this could be dangerous. Instead, he worked the outskirts where he was nice and comfortable, and eventually happened to come across a beautiful young lady. And, well, when it turns out that was Spilt's daughter, he also found himself inside the work camp and has taken quite a lashing for, let's just say, his transgressions. We're actually going to pull the camera to the attention of a third person recently coming into town. Only a few days after the second witcher was thrown into the work camp, we find a young man walking his way into, again, the small town area. The houses here are not super close together at any point. There is no town center, but they're not super sparse either. There's no like super rural area where they're all very spaced out and there's heavy farms that are built up. They're all pretty equidistant in the entire region. All of the houses being in about a quarter-mile area from one another. And again, this is with about 70 people that live here, including families. So walking down the, we're going to say road, into the town coming from Rivia, that direction, we have a young man walking in. Could you please describe Bran for us, Rick?
Right, so down the road comes walking a man in a black hooded robe, so you don't actually get to see much of him. But once his hood comes off, you can see that he's got short brown hair, no beard or anything like that. And he seems to be a rather simple man. He just wears a simple tunic, no like fancy armor or things like that. He's got a couple daggers at his hip and a little like crossbow on his back, so he doesn't seem too intimidating.
Nice. Just carries lots of weapons. Not too intimidating.
Self-defense, you know.
Of course. So as you come walking into this awful place, and I say awful just because like it's not well kept at all. I mean, it has all the features that would make this a beautiful place to build a town. You have the mountains nearby, we can see sun setting behind it. You have the clean forest and trees all around you. But it just the shape of the buildings that you're walking past, the look of the people and how dirty they are, it just gives you the idea that this place is not nice. So as you come walking into the area where the buildings are, you look around to see if there's some sort of pub. It's actually not one of those things that jump out at you for a pub. Would you ask about this, or would you just kind of meander until you found it?
I'd probably ask around.
Sure. So we could even have you walk up to the nearest. Would you approach a fella, a lady, or doesn't matter?
Just the first person that I happen to come across.
Sure. So you're gonna come walking up to an older gentleman that's sitting on a stump tree, probably cut down many years ago. Just sitting there. He has a stick in his hand, and he looks to be poking at something in the dirt.
Good day to you, sir. I hate to trouble you, but I happen to be looking for like a pub nearby. Would you happen to know one?
Oh, yeah, we have a pub. He looks like slowly up, craning his neck to see you, and his head kind of like shaking a bit as he does so. Looks up to meet you in the face, and you can see that he is he's like really scanning you and like looking over your features with intent. He's like, yes, we have a pub in this town. It's not much for you outsiders. It doesn't have a lot of them fancy drinks there.
That's all right. I just need something for the road.
Oh, are you doing something in the area?
Just passing through, mostly.
And you can see like he's not very subtle. You can see he's craning his neck and really squinting his eyes, and he's looking very intently at your eyes themselves. After like a solid 2 seconds of him being honestly awkward, he's like, oh, and like all of a sudden his demeanor kind of like loosens up a bit. He gets less hard against you. He's like, oh, I'm sorry to, I didn't mean to be rude, boy. We've had some strange travelers coming through this town recently. Yes, the pub, it's up on the hill over there. It's called the Flooded Hole.
Ah, marvelous. Thank you. I'll be on my way now.
And you head in that direction, and there's like a little hilled area where you can actually see a building near the top of it. And as you're waking your way up, you see that there are 3 guys that are standing outside the building, and they're all kind of like having a rowdy talk with one another. All 3 of them are smoking some sort of tobacco or something else, you know what I mean? From 2 of them from pipes, one of them rolled up in some sort of a leaf. And it's like, even though the conversation continues, one of them more boisterous than the other 2, they really eye you as you go walking into the pub. And I mean, like, really, really eye you. But
can I eye them back?
Absolutely. Do you want to do so in like a way that's meant to be intimidating, or just, I'm looking them back?
Inquisitive. Trying to figure out what they're up to.
Sure. Then, you roll me an insight check, please. First roll of the game. Also, speaking directly to chat with that good roll right there. Does anybody hear? Is my volume off? I turned it down pretty heavily when I was hosting for Doxy last night because I was obnoxiously loud compared to everybody else, and I want to make sure that we're good. So let me know if my volume is off compared to them so far. So anyways, you with your 15, honestly, you think that these people just don't like outsiders. They just do not like outsiders whatsoever, and you being one coming into the town, they're being very, very suspicious. And this kind of goes in hand in hand with what the older guy was telling you down below. So eyeing the back and seeing they're kind of like reading you up and seeing like, can I take them? You go over and I imagine open the door and walk in.
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as you go in there, you see that there are 3 other people, and it's not late. We're talking, it's late morning. There are 3 other people that are sitting in there. 2 of them have empty plates, but full mugs. One of them has a half-empty plate, 3 empty mugs, and a full mug, and or half full mug. And they're just sitting there, and as you come walking in, it's the typical lazy, look to see who's walking in the door to see if it's something interesting. And when they see it's an
piano
outsider,
stops.
they linger the view for a moment, but then just ignore you. And then on the far side, you do see a woman that's sweeping the floor. She also doesn't look to be particularly young, probably in her late 30s, early 40s.
Is there any sort of like notice board or like news board or anything like where I could like, get the local vibe without like talking to people?
So there is a board. And you kind of like look around, you take it in for a second, you do see a board, because this is pretty standard in inns in general. And when you go over and look at the board, you see that not only is it mostly empty, but the papers that are on there actually have a bit of black mold starting to grow on them because they've been sitting there for so long, and this place is a bit moist. So you're like, this is not active.
Right. In that case, I'll walk up to the old lady that happens to be sweeping the floors.
Oh, hello there.
Good day, ma'am. I'm new here. I'm just passing through, really. But I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about this town, like what's been going on.
Do you still have your hood drawn, or is it pulled down?
No, I would have taken my hood off as soon as I entered.
She's like, I'd love to help you. Do me a favor. Open your eyes.
Okay.
And then when you do so, thinking it's weird, and she's like, can you look over there?
Sure.
And then she like looks at the side of your head, and she's like, let me get you a nice beer there, fella. Give me 1 second. And she walks off and fills up a mug and comes back and puts it down in front of you. And she pulls a seat down to sit opposite you in the thing. And you could hear like her knees like pop, like she's glad to be sitting. And so she sits down. She's like, all right, you were asking some questions?
Yeah, just a general what's been going on in the town.
Oh.
Like, who do I go to if I need something, for instance?
Well, if you need information, you're talking to Madam Mary right now, and I've got all the information that you could get. If you're looking to talk to the enforcement, well, you know, there's Carver. Carver has he's the one that leads up the guard around here, noble sort. And if you're looking to speak to the authority himself, it's Spilt. Fine mayor if there ever was one.
Ah, so how are things then in Spilt's magnificent town?
Oh, it's been interesting lately. There's a couple of them witch folk coming in here, and we caught them doing the bad things immediately. They're not good people, those witch folk.
Yeah, they have that aura around them. You can't trust them.
It's evil. The aura, it's evil. It's what it is. It's all right.
Yeah.
One of them received a few lashings for, well, I imagine the lashings he was doing the other day with his tongue there. Oh, I'm sure he's got more coming his way.
Marvelous. Where are these strange folk being kept?
Oh,
I might want to go out and see some of those lashings.
They're paying back their debt to society. That's what they're doing. They're out working. I think, what day is it? What year is it? I think they're out chopping wood today. You gotta, winter's not far off, and we gotta keep our fireplaces nice and warm. Keep us, steamy in the winter. She says.
Exactly.
She starts to give you a rotten tooth kind of smile.
I'm slowly nursing the beer as we talk. I make a bit of small talk. Ask about the inn, that sort of thing.
So from this, she will kind of fill you in on the locals. It's one of those, you don't really get anything anything pertinent off of her. But why don't you roll me a persuasion check? You're just trying to be charming in general. So, wow, 2 15s in a row. That's pretty funny. So, with your persuasion check, so you're able to actually really make a bit of an impression on her. She kind of likes you, not just because you're actually a human, but, you're genuinely a kind person. You're a bit younger than she is. So, you guys chat for a little while. You do come to realize that she is another heavy. So, there are 3 significant people in this town, the 3 that I just mentioned. They're all very, very, very anti freak show. And she's always the one to she's like, I'm the one that reported them, I'm the one that told them about that witch folk that was in my bar, and who do you think caught Spilt's little hussy of a daughter with her legs thrown to the moon? Oh, it was me. So you kind of get that that vibe off of her.
Sorry.
So, but you don't really get anything else of significance. You do learn, inquiring about the guard itself. It's about 24 guards that watch after what is 5 elves, 2 dwarves, and 2 witchers.
24 guards looking after 10 people. Carver's got an interesting way of doing things then.
Oh, we're trying to get our hands on some more weapons so we can get them better watched. You know them. Them freak shows, they got them abilities.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about them witchy folk. You never know what kind of trick they have up their sleeve.
That's right. And, kind of conversation from there would teeter off unless there's anything in particular you're trying to get from her.
No, I at some point I'd probably finish the beer and then politely make my leave.
Sure. And while you're kind of finishing off that conversation, mulling over the beer, so on and so forth, why don't we pull our attention over to the other 2? So you guys are actually chopping up wood today. So one of you happens to be in the area where literally cutting down trees. So it's 2 dwarves and 1 of the witcher are cutting down trees. 2 of the elves are actually assisting to make sure that the trees are being kind of lined up to be chopped up well for breaking up into parts, and everybody else is working to start breaking them down into firewood. Not little pieces of firewood you actually throw into your log, but the kind that can be split and carried back to town for everybody else to split outside their own houses. You know what I mean? So because Bastion is wicked beefy, Bastion is on the axe swinging group, and then Leonard is actually in the group of people that's chopping down the trees because it's multiple doing it. So you kind of like, So over in the region where you guys are taking care of this, the guards, just to kind of like paint the picture for you, Leonard, you're over there with the two dwarves, as I had said. And you've gotten a little bit friendly with them as time went. Not because dwarves are particularly friendly. It's just because you've had time to be with them. So their names are Bellum and it's Bellum and Duncan. And so Bellum and Duncan are are kind of like working hard with you to take these down. Every once in a while, you're allowed to take a break. Do you choose to kind of like be near them and make conversation, or do you choose to like be a bit away?
Yeah, I'm sure I'd hang out with them.
Sure.
A little bit.
So while you're sitting there and having your conversations, and honestly, you've learned pretty much anything you could off these guys. There's nothing significant whatsoever. You do overhear a couple of guards nearby. Two of them stop to take a piss, and so they're like standing next to each other, pissing near to where you guys were working, like literally where you're going to be standing. And
Nice.
One of them says to you, one of them says to the other one, "Oh, did you hear? Yeah, Max, he was found in that mess that we've been finding a few of the others in." And the other guy's like, "No, Max, he was a bit quiet, but he was a good one. Yep, they found him last night, this morning. He was out in the woods, and they tore him up good. It looks like they may have even chased it. They may have even chased it from his house." It's like, "What do you mean? Markings? They kind of look like the markings on the little boy's face. Oh, we gotta find a way to fix that. Any word from the Flame? No word from the Rose yet. They haven't made their way sending anyone out here yet. We're still trying to get them down from Rivia." And then they kind of like from that pull up and walk off, laughing at the fact that they just pissed where you guys are working. And so one of the dwarves kind of says under their breath, like, "Another one, good." Like happy that a couple of the humans around here happen to have been dying off recently. It's an unknown phenomenon as to why it happens, but this is actually the 6th human now, and this one's actually a guard, so someone that's armed and able to take care of themselves. The 6th human that's been ripped apart. You've heard that he was potentially chased from his home and into the woods where he was torn apart. So from here, is there anything that you would care to participate in conversation with them, speak to the guards, or?
I feel like I'd just be observing, just kind of taking it all in, not really trying to state any opinions or anything yet. Just trying to keep it to myself.
Obviously, with new news and whatnot that you just received, you don't want to be like rocking any boats and trying to take it in. Can you do me a favor, Leonard, and describe the way that you look for everyone?
Say that again, sorry.
Describe the way that Leonard looks.
Oh, the way he looks, his physical. Okay, yeah, he's not the best looking guy. He's let me pull it up. I have it written down. Hold on one second. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so he's kind of like he looks like, oh jeez. So he's got a bunch of like burn marks all over his body. He's got a lot of scarring from something that happened to him, something in his troubled past. And so he's got a big brand on one of his shoulders. His body's a little disproportionate. Like it seems like he's kind of slanted one way when he stands. And his shoulders are very wide and almost pulled out, and his waist is very tight and skinny. And he's got his most defining features are on his cheeks. He's got burns and exposed teeth on the right side of his jaw, just kind of like melted, stringy skin coming down the side of his face. And it definitely puts him at a disadvantage when people look at him. They know immediately that he's kind of fucked up looking. But other than that, he would look like a typical Nilfgaardian if you looked him from his left side. He would just look like a regular guy with the cat eyes. He's got a messy beard, rumpled hair from lack of cleaning. Just sort of very common folk looking if you don't see him from the other side.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you're sitting there and just kind of like, that was a bit of news for you, so you're just taking that in and don't want to rock the boat as it is right now. Now, Bastion, over to you. You're over in the area where you're chopping up wood. Now, it's one of those things where this is exhausting labor for most people, and this is something that totally would throw you off. But two things. One, not only are you ripped like a motherfucker, and this is not too terribly maybe blisters, but honestly, you get that Witcher skin. You know what I mean? That shit's tight.
Right.
So not only is that good, but actually, the only female guard out of all of them happens to be nearby. So I imagine that your stamina just does not quit. You're just sitting there and just like, I could do this all day. I'm not. Even looking.
Give her a look sometimes. Give her a little wave between when someone's like swapping out the logs for me.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where at first she was like if you did something like that, she'd come over and give you like a smack in the side of the head. But as time has like passed and you're like just working hard and not complaining and being like just unrelenting with your flirting, you're kind of like breaking down that wall, and she's kind of like, hey, as you do so, and like other guards would start giving you looks like look at you, how you're like your interactions you're having with her, and look how she's like reacting to them.
Give them a wink.
So at this point in time, we're gonna have you just literally done that and tossed a wink to that guard, and they just like pissed off about the fact that this has been going on for some time, and they're gonna start making their way over towards you. So you have that axe, that wood chopping axe, in your hands. And this one guard is starting to make their way over towards you. And they're starting to walk over at you, with a lot of bluster, shoulders squared, stone-faced, making their way up. Do me a favor, describe Bastion for me.
So he is absolutely gorgeous. Just a beast of a man. Just wonderful to look at. You could get lost in his Witcher eyes. Somehow much more beautiful than the other Witchers. He's got wavy silver hair. He is just, whew.
So how tall is he? Remind me.
He's about 6 foot.
About 6 foot. Okay. So he comes walking up, and it's one of those things where as he comes walking up to you, and he goes to square off, you actually stand a little bit taller than he does, and because you're like up where the ground is a bit more firm because you're chopping wood, right? You're like literally splitting it. So the way you do it is you put like a big iron spike in there, and you're hammering it in with the back end of the axe or whatever. So you, because you're up there, you're in like a firmer area, you're standing taller, and you're larger than he is. All of a sudden, he kind of like realizes you also have like a weapon in your hands, and so you can see him deflate a little bit in front of you. He's kind of like loses a bit of that bluster. He's like, "Hey, you need to watch your eyes, friends, or they're gonna get plucked."
You really want to embarrass yourself in front of the lady? I nod to my guard friend.
He's like, "Oh, I know more lashes," and it's kind of like trying to find a way to put himself back into power. He's like, "Oh, I know more lashes are going to be coming your way, and I think I'm going to be enjoying the one holding the whip. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll be lashing you myself, friend."
I mean,
Like he's a little into it. Yeah, wait.
I can't really argue with that. Do you mind letting me get back to my work then?
That's right. You don't argue, and you're gonna work.
I'm in prison. Can't do much there.
And you remember it. And you remember it good. And he says, and he actually takes like that one more step forward and gives you like a poke to the chest.
All right, I look over to the lady. You believe this guy?
And so I'll say, he kind of like that went literally over his head, and so he turns around and he walks off and gives her like an affirmative look, like I took care of that, and then we can kind of like pull away from where you guys are. The breaks that you take there aren't very long, so on and so forth, and at the end of the day, you're exhausted. I mean, it's literally every day that you're here, because we are technically playing D&D 5e, every day that you're stuck in this work camp, you gain 1 level of exhaustion. But at the in the morning when you're done resting, that goes away. Don't worry about the mechanics of that right now. Just know that it's bad. So when you guys finally make your way slumping back into where it is that you're staying, your actual home, you built it. So, or at least this camp built it. It's actually made out of almost like log cabin style, that linking log style, where it's very thick logs thrown together and makes it actually really strong. They have it reinforced with a bit of iron around the corners and everything, and around the areas where there would typically be a weak spot, so nobody can like try to break out in the middle of the night. There's one window in there, but I don't even want to call it a real window. It's very, very small to make sure that like air can get in and out, but nobody can like climb through. And the door itself has 5 locks on it, which is like, are you kidding me? This is obnoxious. But you guys are all inside one room together. So it's not like you're all individual cells or anything like that. And the actual building itself is decently sized. It's like a 10 by 10. It honestly is not built on any foundation or anything. It's just thrown onto the ground below. 10 by 10, all 9 of you are shoved into it. All right, so you guys go back into there where everybody kind of like groups together and has to pass out for the night. You get your low quality food, whatever. We're gonna pull the camera back over to Bran, who has been kind of like nursing that beer, chatting with her for a little bit of time, and maybe made your way a little bit more around town and taking in the surroundings. So we're jumping to like the end of the day. We've really been able to take in like where all the different buildings are. Even went by and checked out the creek, which honestly wasn't that far away, to see where it is that they're pulling up the stone from. And you get from the quarry where they're pulling up the stone from, that they're being shipped out, where it's all being shipped out. This place is rather pathetic. You know, it's any low quality army could take it out without even trying, but even a group of bandits. So it's the evening now, Bran. The sun has just gone down recently. People are making their way either to the tavern or to their homes, because being out at night in this region isn't the safest of things because of the rumor that you heard recently. The humans that have disappeared, some of them they're all being ripped apart, you know, so on and so forth. So, I mean, humans being killed, not disappeared. Go ahead, Bran.
Very worrying. Would I have been able to take a piece of paper from like the notice board while I was leaving?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, moldy paper, man. Right. I think Bran's just gonna... Would I happen to know where I could find Carver at this like time of day? From like the chit-chatting I've done?
Yep. So this time of day, Carver's going to be over by the... so like I said, there's that cell or that building where they're all kept in. You actually got to check that out while they were all away and working earlier, because, like I said, you left the bar like probably around noonish. Many hours passed. His home is not very far from there. It's like probably 2 buildings over, so maybe like an acre from there.
Okay. I'm gonna make my way to the camp.
Okay. So over to like the 10 by 10 building, or sorry?
Yeah, just prison? Like, I don't know, like, yeah, the prison.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So you make your way over there. There are 2 guards that are sitting out in front of it, and they're playing. It looks like they're trying to play a card game that you've seen before, because like you've played it where you grew up. But you can also tell like they're missing some cards. It's almost obvious they're missing some cards because they have like other bits of paper that they've written like the name of what card would be there. Others are like crumpled up or like ripped. So they're trying to play a card game, but it doesn't work out too well because it's pretty obvious what's in their hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do any of them look like... How do they look? Are they like typical farm hands? Like, do I imagine one of them would be able to read?
If you were to look at... Roll me an insight check. Ooh. Rick's the only one rolling today, and he's crushing it so far. So you look them over. That's a nice change. You look them over, and you can clearly tell one of them is smarter than the other one. As to whether or not they can read, you think that they can, but you definitely there's one of them smarter than the other. And he's also
Would I
leading
be
it.
able to use prestidigitation to like make a piece of paper appear that looks like a royal decree?
Prestidigitation also works kind of like you can make it look nicer. You can make the so a royal decree. The issue with that is a royal decree is going to be like a whole bunch of script. It's very very specific. I'm going to say, throw prestidigitation up on the screen for me. Click it. I want to double check that one because that.
Yeah,
that
I've been
sounds
looking
like
at the wording really carefully here for my plans.
Because like minor illusion, sure, no problem. But prestidigitation, let's see, harmless sensory effects, fire, puff of smoke, fake musical notes, odd, instantaneously clean or soil, chill, warm, make color, small mark, simple to appear, non-magical trinket, or an illusionary image that can fit into your hand. So I imagine yes, but it's one of those things where it's not going to be super. They could theoretically make a check to realize that it isn't what it is, because it's going to work as an illusion.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I could also use minor illusion, but I don't know. Prestidigitation
Minor
seems
illusion
like
is going to look exactly like what you want it to be. Prestidigitation is something that they can act, but it's going to be fake. Prestidigitation is going to be something that they can physically hold, but might be able to see through it, and it won't be as nice.
Okay, I'm going to stick with prestidigitation then,
Sure.
and I'm going to walk up to them.
Sure.
I'll talk to the dumber looking one, because I'm smart,
Okay.
and I will address him. Greetings, sir. I am here on behalf of Queen Maeve of the Kingdom of Lyria and Rivia. And I show him, like, the royal decree. I am here to talk to the strange witcher folk.
When you say that, like that you're here on behalf of Queen Maeve, the dumber one just kind of like jumps up, like, yeah, let me help you. And the other one is kind of like looking when you say that, and he's like, "You are you?"
I am.
And he's kind of like sitting back and like watching this play out, like he doesn't believe you. And the dumber one is kind of like, "How can I help you out?" Do me a favor, roll me a deception check, actually.
I actually was going for, like, that's fine. Deception also works. Hey!
He sits back and, like I said,
I have a paper, it's fine.
he sits back like he doesn't believe you, but he also doesn't interfere with anything that you're saying either. So he's just kind of like watching. And so the dumber one does come forward and he's like, "Yeah, let me help you. What do you need to do with the witch folk? Sorry."
I need to have a word with them. Queen Maeve has reason to believe that they might know something of value.
He's he's like, talk to him, and he looks down at the other guy, like, the guy's like, supposed to have Carver's permission, or at least Spilt's. And he's like, but it's the queen. It's like, but check the paperwork at least. And so the guy is gonna come over and he's gonna like grab the paper, and I imagine you're still holding it, so you're like holding the prestidigitation illusion on there pretty strong. And he comes over and he grabs like the bottom of the paper and he starts reading through it. You can tell like how his eyes are scanning on it. Either he really has a low grade of reading, or maybe he's like dyslexic or something like that, because it takes him a long time to get through the first two sentences, and then he reads the very bottom and he's like, starts to get like a little bit red in the face, and he realizes how long it's taken him. He's like, "It looks good. It looks real." And it's like, "Yeah, over here," and goes over and busts out keys. It's actually the same key unlocks all 5 locks. So he unlocks all of the locks and opens up the door, and he's like, "Hey, freak shows!" No response.
Oh, is that us?
It's like a little bit of a creaking of wood. Nobody responses. He's like,
I mean,
I come forward and I'm rubbing my eyes. Huh?
I'll be already awake. I just kind of like look up. Like I'm just kind of perched up in my bed, like looking at him, but like not saying anything.
What's going on?
"Yeah, that's right. You two, get over here. The queen wants to talk to you."
Oh, the queen now. Oh, the queen now.
Queen? Okay.
So, you guys, I imagine, get up and head over towards the doorway. Okay. He swings it wide so that you guys can see Bran standing there. And he's actually going to say, he swings wide so that you see Bran standing there, and he looks to be inviting you out. But the other one says, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't just let them out here. I don't want to have to look at their disgusting selves.
Gorgeous, thank you.
Send that one in there. Send that one in to talk to him. He's like, probably safer that way. And so he actually has Bran walk into the place. And
That's fine.
He shuts the door behind you. You don't hear all the locks relock. That'd be ridiculous. But he does shut the door behind you. And the three of you are able to kind of like be in there. Now, blinking once, twice, 8 times, 9 times. Leonard and Bastion, you guys can see perfectly fine. You know, you're witchers. And there's are dwarves and elves behind you. But poor Bran, you know. He's so blind.
Queen to me.
Is there a place we can talk without the other people present?
10 by 10.
Wouldn't matter regardless.
Yeah, we don't have much room in here.
You can go to the corner if you like.
I guess.
Okay, then we'll walk over to the corner.
Right. Hello, Witchers. You seem to be in a bit of a predicament.
You could say that.
I'm grumpy that it's not the queen and I just woke up from a nap. You just see like this look of
Can I
just Ned.
we can see him, right?
Correct. You guys can see. You have dark vision in accordance with 5e rules, so you can see him perfectly fine.
Okay, so I know he's not a witcher. I know that.
Yep, very obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I get in here, I take my hood off so we can just talk.
Okay.
Is there a reason you just got yourself thrown into a prison camp to speak with us?
Thrown into is an interesting way of putting it. But yes,
Here.
I am also in a bit of a predicament, and I figured that we might be able to help one another.
I'm sorry, are you trying to hire us?
Yeah, we're not exactly in the best position for that right now.
That's fine. I can get you out of here.
Well,
and in return, you deal with my problem.
You know, I just happened to have come into a situation where a rescue would be very appreciated.
I can get you out of here, but in return, you will have to take care of some witch hunters for me.
Let's see. I would be willing to help with that.
I guess
Marvelous.
I have a choice.
I mean, you do. The weather around here is lovely, but I'm not sure if logging is your favorite pastime.
Well,
I'm really good at it, though.
you know,
You feel free to stay in here.
he's definitely one of the best loggers we have.
I just take pride in my work.
Yeah, it's very obvious. Yes, with a little too much pride, frankly.
All right. And I put my hand on both of their shoulders. And I just go, this won't hurt a bit. And you see him, try to do something, but it doesn't initially work. It takes him, a few tries, but eventually I will twin spell. Oh, yeah. There we go. Invisibility.
Oh, shit.
So what happens is, like you said, at first he places his hands on you guys, and you can see he's concentrating really hard, saying a couple of words, but it doesn't seem to work at first. And so you take his hands off, and you can see him starts making a couple hand gestures or whatever, things that he had read in places, things that might be able to assist him, but concentrates really hard and places his hands on you. And you can almost see a slight silver stream of light come around you guys once or twice as this happens. Nothing so much that would be seen outside. It's not super bright or anything like that, but it definitely lights up anybody who's looking in the area. You can almost get a quick candle movement or sparkler movement in the area. And then you see each other. It's not one of those from the head down. You just see looking at each other you both fade from each other's vision. Much like if you've ever seen it before, a 500 millisecond fade away. Sorry, 5,000 millisecond fade away.
Where'd you go?
Mage, huh?
Can I then minor illusion both of them lying on their respective beds?
Is minor illusion a concentration spell?
It is not.
Then yes, you can.
Cool. In that case, they're now both lying on their bed, looking
Exactly.
very sad.
I think you can have 2 minor illusions at a time, can't you? It's one
think
or
so.
2. You create. Oh, you can have. I think you can create a sound or an image of an object within range of the duration. The illusion also ends. If you create a sound, it continues unabated. If you create an image, such as it must be no larger than 5 cubic feet, the image cannot create sound, light, smell, or any other sensory effect. If a creature uses action to examine, it's probably only no, because it's 2 durations. So I guess you could do 2. I guess theoretically, you can cast 10 a minute. You know what I mean? It just kind of
Wow.
keeps cycling through. No. The illusion ends if you dismiss it as an action or cast a spell again. It's literally the top paragraph.
So I can only minor illusion one of them?
Correct, but because the illusion is 5 cubic feet, you can illusion the 2 of them together nearby one another. 'Cause
Yeah,
five
in that
cubic
case,
feet.
they're sitting, huddled, talking in the back.
We're in bed together.
Okay.
No, we're not.
Okay, so you cast the illusion spell on both of them. So you made them invisible and cast like an image of them nearby. The others inside the thing look over and there's like a bit of a gasp and there's like a bit of murmuring. Do you say anything, Bran? Or anybody else?
Do we know his name yet? Have we heard his name?
Who?
Not
No,
yet.
no.
No? Okay. Then I'll be like, Mage, if I may make a suggestion, perhaps a corpse would be more distracting.
So you want to just kill these people?
No, I mean an illusion.
Oh, but
maybe.
I like that one. And I just point at one of the elves.
Yeah, the dwarves are cool.
Oh,
No,
you
that,
can't
that's
see
not what I
I'm
mean.
pointing. I point anyway.
Maybe Carver's head on a pike would be nice. Just saying.
Yes, and how would we suddenly get a head in here out of nowhere?
Same way you made those illusions. It would make me feel better.
It would make you feel better, but I don't think they would buy it. I'll look at the dwarves and elves for a moment. If you say anything, nobody will believe you about what just happened.
You made me buff enough, though. And I point at my illusion.
And I would like to try and intimidate them into staying quiet.
Absolutely. That was a good one.
Oh, you're looking the wrong way, huh?
So,
Oh, your first bad
Oh.
roll. That's too bad. So you say that, and I mean their will is pretty broken because of how long they've been here and so on and so forth. So you can see that about half of them are like, yeah, true, and the other half of them like look really agitated, like you're not going to try to help me. This is kind of like the looks that you're getting off of them.
at this point, I just thump on the doors like, I'm done, open up.
Okay, so you thump on the door and you say, "I'm done. Open up," and they do so. So they open up the door for you, and one of the dwarves calls back and says, calls after you and says, "This won't get forgotten."
Oh.
I don't look back. I just walk out. I stand near the exit of the door and like try to block it so that they can walk through.
Yep. So
Can I, in this time, can I go up to like at least one of them and whisper to them to let them know that I'll come back for you?
Yes, you can. I imagine Leonard is not doing that.
No. No.
Rip.
So you, Leonard, roll me a stealth check, but you can actually roll it with advantage because it's only sound we're worried about. Do you know how to do that?
No.
So at the top of your character sheet, there should be something that says advantage, normal, disadvantage. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, click on advantage and then click on the stealth button.
Gotcha.
Wow. Hello. So you are very, very, very stealthy, making your way out. No creaks of stepping across the floorboard and out of it, so on and so forth. Now, Bastion, because you spent time, and I imagine Bran probably imagined you walked out quickly. You went across the other way. You whispered to the person. Then you're coming back out. You're going to roll for me, but you're not going to get advantage on this roll. You're going to have to roll normal.
And that's just a stealth check?
Correct. And Bren, you said you went to go stand in front of the doorway. You knocked on the door, say coming out. You doing anything else in the meanwhile?
I would try to like briefly talk to the guards. Like, turns out these witcher folk are a bunch of no-gooders. False lead.
Oh, I could have told you that, friend. I could have told you that. So the queen, she doesn't need them.
No, they can stay in here.
So with your 18, despite the fact that you didn't even have a modifier. That was a naked roll, man. Oh, you're lucky. So you guys make your way out, and they're like, well, if the queen needs some good men, though, she needs some men that are, willing to put a hard day's work in, could get paid for it, but work really hard for her. I'm your guy. And
yes, I'm sure that if the queen ever needs to expand her retinue, this will be a suitable place for her to send a recruiter to.
Yeah, I need a bluff check on that one. No, I'm just,
Sure, I'm going to roll bullshit for you. I've got a plus 20.
But you actually have an advantage on the bluff check, because this guy actually is like, he's picking up what you're putting down.
Nice. Does that just insta-succeed then?
No. Because it's not him that you're really trying to trick so much as the other guy.
Oh, I mean, I'm just full of hot air if you actually want me to roll something.
Yeah. The advantage deception. And Messi, it's always best to click back to normal if you're not actively using advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome, good for you. So you crush it. They believe you completely, and I imagine at this point you turn around and you walk away. All right, so we're actually come around to our first hour. We're going to take our first break. Before we do so, I actually forgot to mention this at the beginning of the session, which I said in pre-stream that I would. For this first session, I have the Twitch extension flicked off for the ability to affect the game. We did change the different options that you guys can use to help or hinder the party, but those will be going live starting next week's session. We just wanted to have the opening of the game happen raw or unhindered. So we'll see you all in a few minutes. So go get a drink, take a pee, do what you got to do. All right. Bye.
Bye.